Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The 8-Year Lie by J.M. Hewitt, narrated by Sasha Higgins. Prologue. Tape recording of Louise's original police statement. Commissariat de Police, Avenue de Grasse, Cannes, France. 8 years ago. Louise. The streets were dark as we drove up into the hills. The house where the party was being held was also in darkness. The entire road was. Jessica asked if we had the wrong night, the wrong house. I got the flyer out of my bag and switched the light on in the car. I remember suggesting that the party was in the back, like in a gazebo or something. Jessica didn't answer me, but I got out of the car and went to the boot to get my camera equipment. Jessica followed. I asked if she thought it might be a power cut, but when she didn't answer and I turned around, she'd gone. Officer Marron. Gone. Louise. Yes. Officer Marron. What did you do next? Louise. I put a bag on each shoulder. I was a bit annoyed at having to carry everything because Jessica had vanished. I hung my camera around my neck and walked towards the house. When I reached it, I saw a gate to the side. It was open, so I went through it to see if my original thought about the party being in a tent out back was right. It was really dark. The pathway twisted and turned through all these vines and hedges. I walked for a long time. I kept tripping when I walked off the paving and my heels sank into the soil. I didn't want to spoil my shoes. They're expensive, you know, so I got a couple of film bags out and put them on as overshoes. Officer Marron. Film bags? Overshoes? Louise. Yeah, they're bags made out of muslin, really cheap, and I've got hundreds of them. They're what photographers keep their film in. I put them on over my shoes because I didn't want to spoil them. As protection, you know. Officer Marron. Protection. I see. What happened next? Louise. I felt like I was in a maze, and I'd turned in so many directions I no longer knew where the house was, or the road was, or even where I was at all. It was dark. It was too dark. Officer Marron. How did you feel at this point? Louise. I was scared and angry. Officer Marron. Angry? Louise. Yeah, angry. I thought they were... It was just scary, you know. Officer Marron. Why were you scared? Louise. Because it was dark. I felt like I was lost. All that time I was thinking about me. I'm sorry. This is difficult. Okay, so I decided to try and get back to the car, go home, forget all about the party and the job. Officer Marron. And then what happened, Louise? Louise. The lights came on, one by one, all the way down the street, and I realised I was right next to the back of the villa. I could see the French doors in front of me, and then the lights came on inside, and... Officer Marron. Yes? Louise. And I looked through and I saw Alexis and Jessica. There was blood. Officer Marron. Take your time. Louise. The lights dimmed again. I thought the power had gone out again, but maybe it was a surge or something. Anyway, I screamed. Then the police were there and... That's all. Officer Marron. What were they doing? Were they fighting? Louise. Silence. Officer Maron. What were they doing? Louise. Inaudible. Officer Maron. I'm going to have to ask you to speak up for the tape. Louise. They were both on the floor. It looked like they'd both been attacked. Tape recording of Jessica's original police statement. Commissariat de Police, Avenue de Grasse, Cannes, France, 8 years ago. Jessica. When we got there, the street was deserted, like really dark. I thought we might have had the wrong night, but Louise checked the invitation. She told me to wait in the car while she got her camera stuff out of the boot. Officer Maron. What did you do? Jessica. I waited for a minute, then when I looked out of the back window, I saw Louise heading towards the house. Officer Maron. Could you still see her when you got out? Jessica. No, but the front door was open, so I presume someone had opened it and let her into the house. So I went in, and it was all dark inside, just like the street. No light at all. I used the torch on my mobile phone and saw a light switch, but it didn't work. Officer Maron. What did you do next, Jessica? Jessica. I was standing in the hallway, and I could see through to another room, a lounge or something, through an archway opposite me. That's when I saw her. Officer Maron. Saw who? Jessica? Jessica. Her. Alexis, lying on the floor by the fireplace. Officer Maron. And what did you do? Jessica. I found her like that. Someone had attacked her. I tried to help her, to save her. There was someone else in that house tonight who hurt her. I went over to her. I thought maybe she was drunk, like passed out, you know? She was on her front, and I turned her over, tried to wake her, right? Then I saw it. Officer Maron. What? What did you see? Jessica. Inaudible. Officer Maron. I'm going to have to ask you to speak up a little for the Jessica. The blood! I saw the blood! I called for help, I shouted, and then... Officer Maron. And then? Jessica. I could smell the blood. It all happened at once. I felt funny. Someone was there. Someone hit me. I was attacked and I couldn't see because it was so dark. I think I lost consciousness for a minute. When I woke up, I panicked. I grabbed the poker. Officer Maron. You had a panic attack. Jessica. I was attacked. Someone hit me. Look at my head. Someone attacked me. I didn't have a panic attack. Jesus, can you get a translator in here? Officer Maron. Pardonnez-moi. An attack on you, not a panic attack. Oui. Please continue. Tell me more about this weapon that was used to attack Alexis. I was attacked too. They hit me with it too. Officer Maron. Oui. Please, go on. Jessica. I'm not saying anything else. Officer Maron. We are very nearly finished with the interview. Jessica. I'm not saying anything else. Constable Nina Hart held a finger over the tape recorder. She waited. Having already listened to the tape, she knew what was coming. On the recording came a pause, shuffling, and the clink of handcuffs while the interviewee was led out of the room. A crackle of static, then Maron's voice. One of them is lying, she said to an unseen, unheard person 8 years ago and 900 miles away. Nina flicked off the tape and shot a triumphant glance at her colleague, Detective Sergeant Richard Robinson. "What do you reckon?" Richard shrugged. Nina watched as he chewed thoughtfully on the end of his pen. "But she was released, right? This was 8 years ago, and the case never even got to court. And this Jessica ended up marrying the lawyer who got her off the murder charge and moved here to our fair country. It's like a fairy tale." Nina grinned at Richard. "Or a soap opera." He smiled, shook his head in gentle chastisement of her sarcasm. "And now Jessica's husband, the lawyer, is dead too." Nina jumped up, straightened her shirt, and swept her hands through her hair. "Come on, we'll see what story Blondie comes up with for us." Richard drained his coffee, but remained in his seat. "Take it easy, Nina. Sometimes they are actually innocent." Nina snorted, heading for the door. "I can tell you one thing, Richard," she said. "She won't pull the wool over our eyes as easily as she did with the French authorities." Finally, Richard stood up. He walked over to her and placed a hand on her shoulder, a fatherly gesture. "Nina, innocent until proven guilty." He swept past her, through the door that she held open for him, then paused, turned, and almost as an afterthought, added, "I'll lead the interview." "Yeah, right," she muttered under her breath as she followed him to the interview suite. Chapter 1. Louise. Then. I'd been in France the longest, but still, always, I felt like the new girl, more so than ever in front of these men. It had been over. I was finished. Just over a year I'd managed to struggle along here, alone and out of my depth. At 19 I'd been too young. I'd also been penniless, broke, and more often than not, unemployed. My case had been packed. I had accepted, albeit bitterly, that I was going home to the north of England, back to my parents' house, back to the land of beige. Then I had been hired as the photographer for the opening night of a hotel. It had been sudden and unexpected. It was a reprieve, and no matter how brief it might be, I took it. Marco Cooper sat beside me now, one half of the partnership that had set up Cannes' newest hotel and adjoining casino, Jensen Coast. French Country magazine had requested the use of the hotel grounds for an interview and photo shoot with Ben Albin, the other guy on our table, a British nature and wildlife expert who was spending the summer in France. The use of the hotel guaranteed publicity for Jensen Coast, and a room had been made available for the man of the hour at a heavily discounted price. The night was over. The opening had been a triumph. My own success hung in the balance, dependent on the quality of the shots I'd taken. I itched to get back to my tiny apartment and start the developing process. But with a man like this beside me, I also didn't want to leave. Not that he would ever look twice at me. Not here, with wall-to-wall, slender young Frenchwoman his for the picking. With my larger-than-average build, flame-red hair cut in an unstylish, no-nonsense bob, whiter-than-white skin, a nervous disposition. It was rare that anyone gave me a first glance, let alone a second. I itched at the tender cracking skin between my thumb and first finger. The heat of the place that I'd tried to make my home disagreed with the eczema I'd suffered from since childhood. Absently, I noticed the flaky skin that settled on my trousers. Remembering where I was, who I was with, I brushed it away and glanced around to check nobody had seen. Was it my imagination, or did Marco throw me a look that seemed very much like disgust? I opened my mouth, unsure if I should explain my condition or pretend nothing had happened. But he was up, restless Marco, always on the move, constantly looking for opportunities. His eyes followed a gaggle of nubile young women, all legs and bare tanned flesh. "Excuse me," he muttered, and, downing his drink, he was off. I watched him go, envy settling in my stomach like a stone, only half listening to Ben, the wildlife guy, as he described his work and his life. I nodded along, knowing just by looking at him that he usually had women falling at his feet. He was certainly good-looking enough, but even as he talked attentively to me, I found my gaze wandering back to Marco. He had reached the group of girls now, had them gathered around him, his arms draped across their shoulders. "Business booming?" Ben asked as Marco eventually wound his way back to us. He gestured with his glass to the women, who were now filing out of the hotel into the night, on to the next party. "Yep, supply and demand," laughed Marco. Suddenly, I understood. It wasn't the girls Marco was chasing. It was their money. When I looked at Marco, I saw that he knew I knew. I saw that my knowledge would cause this night to slip away from me, my wage along with it if I upset the owner of this place. Suddenly, desperately, I needed to make it all right. I needed Marco to know that I didn't care about his business sideline, that I was so pleased to have been included in their after-hours drinks I wouldn't tell a soul. That, if anything, I was jealous of him and the notes stuffed in his pocket and the easy way he mingled with the girls. "Have you got any of that going spare, then, for a hard-working girl who's been on her feet all night?" My words were deliberately casual, as though it was the sort of thing I did all the time, even though I couldn't afford 3 meals a day, let alone an expensive drug habit. Marco smiled, wide and full. It was like the sun coming out. "Sure, in exchange for, say, a discount on your work tonight?" I joined him in his laughter, hoping mine didn't sound forced. "No chance." I shook my head with mock regret. "I've got bills to pay, you know." I didn't get any of his cocaine. Not then. Not that night. Which was good, as I wouldn't have known what to do with it. But the banter continued, and later, so much later that the sun was coming up, I returned home hungry but happy, no longer caring that I had no food in the house. That night, I'd found something far more important. Acceptance. I didn't care about the drugs or dodgy dealings, or even dodgier people. With hindsight, I really should have. But my rent was still due, and the promise of the life I'd sought was within reach. The potential blinded me. I needed to keep up the momentum. I wasn't like them, any of them, but I was good at what I did. Mindful that I needed to stay in the picture, the day after the opening, I made my next move. I got up extra early to organise the photos I had taken. While they were being processed, I pulled off my standard-issue comfortable jeans and baggy shirt and replaced them with a long olive-green summer dress that skimmed my ankles. I scraped my jaw-length hair back off my face into a low ponytail and fished around in my bag for my dark shades. Finally, I appraised my reflection. A small smile twitched the corners of my mouth as I dared to admire myself. I would think of that moment later. I would reflect that pride comes before a fall. "Hello, can I help?" Andrew Jensen, Marco's business partner, asked politely as I stood like a spare part in the cavernous reception area. I smothered a smile. Despite several previous meetings, Andrew never remembered me. This time, I wasn't offended. I had taken care over my appearance. I barely recognised myself. "Louise Wilshire," I said, transferring my bag to my other shoulder and holding out my hand for him to shake. "I'm the photographer from the opening night. I brought some proofs along for you to have a look at." His eyes, sea-green emeralds, widened slightly, and with a few words of instruction in French to the maintenance man, he led me to a chair in the lobby. "A drink, perhaps?" he asked as I took the envelope containing my shots out of my bag and spread them on the table. "Tea? Coffee? Champagne?" It was too hot for tea or coffee, and I wondered if my new guise could make me seem like someone I wasn't, but desperately wanted to be. I took a deep breath. "Champagne would be lovely," I said. While we waited, I passed him my magnifying glass and sat back as he flicked his gaze over the negatives. I caught sight of my hands, red, raw, and ugly. They didn't go with my new look. Disgusted with myself, I took them in my lap and hoped Andrew didn't notice. The champagne arrived. I tried to sip at it while he perused the photos, even though I wanted to drink it all down at once to steady my nerves. "Nice," he said. "You've done a great job, Louise." I preened internally, trying desperately to remain cool on the outside. "I can leave them with you. Maybe we can arrange another meeting in a week or so. Give Marco a chance to look over them too." "Sounds ideal. Next weekend, perhaps? I'll check with Marco and we'll arrange a time. A dinner." I floated through the week, anticipation mixing with my scared rabbit persona, but, like the opening and the photographs I'd taken, the meal was another success. "All right, I'll leave you two kids to it," said Andrew after we'd finished eating. "Put it on the tab, Marco. Louise, I'll see you soon." With that, he was gone. Without the three-way conversation, I felt suddenly adrift. During dinner, the chat had been easy, but with just the two of us, I stalled. "Andrew's stressed about Jessica's arrival," Marco told me. I looked at him blankly. "Jessica?" He took a long swallow of wine, grimaced, and beckoned for the waiter. "Whiskey," he said, and turned to me expectantly. "I'm fine with the wine," I said. It wasn't my first choice of alcohol, but there was still a good half-bottle left. If I let it go to waste, I'd lie awake thinking of it during the long, lonely nights when I had nothing but tap water to drink. "Jessica is Andrew's daughter. She's been in Germany. She was supposed to be coming for the opening night, but she's arriving in a couple of days." I sat back, thinking hard. Andrew had a daughter. What was she like? What did she do in Germany? Was she with her mother? I didn't even know if there was a Mrs. Jensen. "Is her mother coming too? I mean, has Andrew got a wife?" "No, she died a long time ago now. It's just him and Jessica." Marco smiled, nudged me in the ribs. "Why, you got designs on old Andrew?" "No, God no," I said, aghast, then forced a laugh when I saw he was joking. "Good," he said, as the waiter arrived and set his whiskey down in front of him. I looked at the tabletop. Good, he'd said. Good that I didn't want Andrew. Did that mean Marco was interested in me? I felt my face grow hot. Or, God forbid, was he simply saying it because the drink he had ordered had arrived? Terrace? He scooped up his pack of cigarettes and inclined his head. I nodded eagerly. I didn't smoke, couldn't afford to, but I'd happily sit outside with Marco. Anything for this night not to end yet. What's Jessica like? I asked shyly. Female friends, any friends come to think of it, were tricky for me. She's cool, replied Marco with an indifferent shrug. She's, 25, so around your age. I stared at him. I'm 19, I replied quietly. Get away. All that photography talent and you're still a kid. He leaned over, shoved an elbow in my ribs again. I rubbed my side discreetly. Marco had no idea of his own strength, but I liked the feel of him. Though it hurt, I'd never tell him. Andrew's putting on a dinner for Jessica's arrival. You should come. My breath caught in my throat. When is this meal? Friday. Next Friday, I think. At Jensen Coast. What time? I asked, striving for casual. Not sure. Hey, do you want to go on to Baoli? I nodded, letting the issue of the time of the meal go. I had Andrew and Marco's final selection of prints to get to them. I could easily arrange to take them over Friday afternoon, and I was certain that upon delivery, an invitation to join them and the mysterious Jessica for dinner would be forthcoming. On the walk to Baoli, Ben fell into step beside us. I didn't mind him joining us, but I worried about the payment to gain access to the nightclub. My concern was unwarranted, as when the bouncers saw Ben and Marco, they ushered all three of us through the red cordon. Inside, Marco stationed us at the bar and left. I watched him as I sipped to Bellini, bought by Ben. Marco moved easily, identifying people he obviously knew. Across the floor, different kinds of men stood. They were not smart-looking like Marco. They wore their hair long, tied back, smoothed and slicked with grease. With narrowed eyes, they muttered to each other and watched him too. I kept my eyes on Marco as he wound his way through the room, greeting people, free with hugs and handshakes and fist bumps. Transactions made easily, little bags passed from palm to palm, until he completed the circuit and came back to us. Gathering us in a huddle, he produced a tiny envelope from his wallet and held it out invitingly. Ben declined as he bopped along to the music. When Marco offered it to me, I hesitated only for a second before taking one of the blue pills and swallowing it down. Marco grinned at me, grabbed my hand and twirled me in an insane dance. I forced myself at first, my feet moving stiffly as I put on my act, trying to fit in. Eventually, 30 minutes or more later, I realised I was no longer pretending. The drug took over, and I joined him in his laughter. On the Wednesday before the Friday meal, before Jessica's night, as I had begun to refer to it in my head, I woke up to find an extra 1,000 euros in my bank account. I scrolled through the transactions, finding that the payment had come from Andrew Jensen. I hadn't yet invoiced him for the photographs I'd taken on the opening night, and my fee was nowhere near the amount he had paid me. I pushed open the fanlight window and fell back against my pillow, staring at my laptop screen until it timed out and logged me off. Should I spend it? Should I mention it to him? What if it was a mistake? After all, the sum was double what I would have charged him. What if he realised he had made an error with the payment and requested it back? If I'd spent it...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?